Hello bakers, welcome back to the channel. I have an amazing treat for us today. Today we are going to be baking 1 hour cinnamon rolls. I have made these so many times and they are absolutely delicious. Best part of it is the cinnamon rolls cost approximately $10 to make. Now, of course, that depends on where you go shopping and what part of the country you live, but on average, that's how much they'll cost to make. All right, so I've already prepared our first couple of items, so let's get started. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a rather large bowl and I'm going to melt our butter, okay? So I've done that, we've got the butter that's melted. So we are going to add this into the bowl, every last drop, okay? Then we're gonna take the same microwave safe bowl, but I used a measuring cup, and I am going to add my milk to the measuring cup, and then I'm going to heat it in the micro. So we are going to use 1 cup of milk. Let me go ahead and measure that, and I like to use evaporated milk simply because we drink almond milk or other types of nut milk here in our home. And but for the recipe I need regular milk, so I oftentimes don't have it in the fridge, but it's super easy to keep a can of evaporated milk in the pantry, which is what I have. And like I said, I've made these cinnamon rolls with evaporated milk before and it comes out lovely, so no issues there. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we are gonna add the milk. Actually, no, we are going to heat the milk, and then we are going to add the milk into the butter. So let's do that. I'll heat that for about 30 seconds. And to melt the butter, I did about the same, between 20 and 30 seconds, depending on your micro. So we're heating the milk, and then we're gonna add it into the bowl. And then we are going to stir in our sugar and our yeast, and then we're gonna let it set for about 10 minutes so that it can do its magic. So let me grab the sugar. This way it's waiting for me. Let me make sure that this milk is heated enough. I'm gonna actually put it in for another 15 seconds for a total of 45 seconds. And that should bring us exactly where we need to be. Let's see, we're gonna do 1/4 cup of the sugar. So let me grab my 4th cup. Look at these cute little measuring cups. This is my 1/4 cup. All right, there we go. Perfect. Yep, now it feels nice and warm all the way through. So I am going to add this in with the butter. You know, I've made this recipe so many times, but I still read the directions because I do not want to get it wrong. All right, so let's add our sugar to that. We're gonna stir in the sugar and the yeast. 1/4 cup of sugar. All right, very good. Lovely. And then we're going to add our packet of yeast, and it has to be active dry yeast. This is the one I'm using today. I flip-flop between this one, between Fleischmann's and between Red Star. But to be honest with you, you might be thinking, okay, Deanna, but how do you decide which one you're going to use? The expiration date. And how do I decide which one I'm going to buy? Which one is on sale, because they both produce really good results with this recipe, but I do only use the 2 of those. Okay, so we added our milk to the butter, we added our sugar, and now we're gonna add our yeast packet, and I'm going to give it a little stirry stir. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover it with a tea towel, and I'm going to allow it to sit for 10 minutes. So once you get it all kind of stirred together and incorporated, just let her be. All right, looks good. All right, so let me get my tea towel. Which is my Red Star tea towel. And I'm gonna cover it up and I'm going to allow it to sit for about 10 minutes and then I'll be back. All right, we are all set. It has been 10 minutes. I'm gonna set my tea towel aside because I'm gonna need that again. And for now, what we're gonna do is we are going to mix in our egg, our vanilla, and our salt into the mixture. And we're gonna work that in a little bit with our spatula. Check out the spatula. Can you read that? It says Baker's Gonna Bake. And this is a nice spatula. It's got, can you hear that? It's got a like a metal handle. So if you guys have a savory spice shop near you, I highly recommend you pop in and get one. I have a spatula and then I have one that looks just like this, and there's actually a rubber spoon on the end. Both come in handy. All right, so I've mixed in our egg and our vanilla and our salt. Now it's time to mix in the flour. So I'm actually gonna leave that in there because what we're gonna do is this recipe calls for 3.5 cups of flour, and we're gonna mix approximately 1/2 cup in at a time and stir as we go. So I've got 1 cup here already ready to go. So let's pour about half of that in here, approximately. And then we're gonna give it a stir. Once it's incorporated, I'm gonna pour the rest of the cup in and give it another stir. And we're gonna do this for the entire 3.5 cups. And then our dough is going to form. All right, so let's put the rest of that in there. That's 1 cup. You can use your hands too if you want to. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of getting my hands dirty. I know that sounds kind of, I don't know what it sounds, but I have this thing and it's really funny because I'm a baker and a hairdresser, right? I do hair too. And I don't like for my hands to be dirty. Kind of interesting, isn't it? All right, so that's 1 cup. Let's go ahead and mix in another cup, like I said, about 1/2 at a time. So we want to measure and make sure that we're good. I have someone waiting on me here. My husband just walked up. Do you need something?
Yes, I do.
I figured he needed something from the kitchen. You are on camera.
Hello.
All right, so here we go. That's another 1/2 cup. We're gonna get that mixed in. It does take a minute to get it all incorporated well. All right, so now let's do that other 1/2 cup. So that gives us 2 cups total so far. So we have 1.5 cups to go. And another reason that I like this spatula so much is because the end of it, the plastic part or the rubber part is firm. So when you've got a dough going on like this and you're mixing, it's not like bending and giving you a hard time. All right, so this is looking good. I'm sure you guys can see that just a little bit. So that was 2 cups. Let's do our 1/2, and then we'll do the last cup. So there's our 1/2. And then we have 1 full cup left to go. And I tell you what, this will work out your arm. It's a good thing I go to the gym, because if not, I think my arm would probably be burning right now. And it might be burning by the time I get the last cup in there. All right, this is looking really good. We have 1 more cup to go. Make sure I get it nice and even. Okay, so let's do 1/2, about 1/2. Get that mixed in. Takes a little bit of time, but trust me, these are worth it. Now, I've done these just regular like we're gonna do today, but I've also done them with chocolate cinnamon rolls. So I've added chocolate before I roll them up. And that was really good too. One of these days I wanna try it with lemon. I think that would be really good. All right, let's do our last 1/2. Okay, I'm gonna close up my flour. And this is our final half a cup. This one's probably gonna take the longest to mix because the dough is forming. So now that there's already kind of a dough formed and we have to incorporate more flour into it, it's gonna take a little bit more arm power. Oh, there goes the burn. It's burning a little, nothing crazy. All right, so this is looking really good. I'm super happy with the way it looks. The dough has come together really nicely. You can see that. So at this point now, it has to rest again. But what I've done is I have heated my oven to 170 degrees. Most ovens, that's as low as they go, at least for your standard, household oven. So I've done that. I preheated it, and now I've got to turn it off because we're actually going to put this in the oven for 10 minutes and it's going to proof. All right, see how good that worked? Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna use my hands. They are clean. And I am going to just incorporate this into a ball. It is a little on the sticky side. So give me a moment here, guys. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add just a touch more flour to this. Just a touch, because I definitely don't want these dry, but it's a little sticky for me right now and I'm not loving that. So I'm gonna just add a sprinkle of flour and I'm gonna incorporate that in with my hand. And let's add just the rest of that. And that was like 1/8 of a cup. It wasn't even, it was like 1/2 of a 1/4. And now it feels good. Now it's not sticking to my hand nearly as much. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna form this into a ball, which it kind of does on its own, but sometimes these little pieces will stick to the bottom. So you wanna make sure that you get everything all incorporated really nicely and you form it into a ball. I like to do that, and I like to put the seams kind of down toward the bottom. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. It's just me. One of my little quirks. All right. There we have it. We have our ball of dough. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean my hand because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like my hands being dirty. It might take a couple extra minutes, but I'm okay with that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my lovely Red Star tea towel. I am going to place it over the top of my dough, and I'm going to place my dough in the oven that has been turned off. I'm going to put it in just like this for 10 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer on my oven again for 10 minutes, and I am going to just allow this to proof in there. Here we go. There it goes. 10 minutes, and I will be back and we will continue. Okay, so I am all about cleaning as I go. So our dough still has just under 6 minutes to proof. So what I'm going to do now that I've got things cleaned up is I am going to prepare the cinnamon filling for the cinnamon rolls, right? Why sit around and wait when I can do something else? Make the time go by faster. So what I've got here is I've got a glass Pyrex, or it's a glass measuring cup. I don't know if this one's a Pyrex. And I've got 1 stick of salted butter in here that's softened. So you can do this. You can make the cinnamon sugar filling with a mixer, but I prefer to do it by hand because I have a little bit more control over it that way. As long as your butter is room temperature, you won't have an issue doing this by hand at all. So my butter is clearly room temperature because I am just using a regular fork to mix it up. And then I'm going to add the rest of our ingredients once I'm happy with the way it looks, which is now. So like I said, I've got 1 stick salted butter there that's been softened. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar, a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So let's do that first. I've got my 1/2 cup scoop here. And I'm at the bottom of my brown sugar. I'm just gonna scoop the rest of it out. I don't pack it like really hard, but I do, you know, just press it down just a little bit to get the 1/2 cup. So I'm just go ahead and finish that out. I do have another one that I'll add to it in a little bit, but I want to clean it first. Okay, so we've got a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. We're going to add that in. And then I'm going to mix it up before I add the white granulated sugar to the mixture. So I'm going to get that kind of incorporated a little bit. If you do it 1 step at a time, it just makes it a little bit easier. All right. Ooh, that looks good. Okay, now we're going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So I am going to just guide that in there. A little more. Actually, no, I'm right there at a 1/2 cup. All right, so we're going to add that in. 1/2 cup of white sugar to the mix. Get that mixed in. Then we're going to add our vanilla and our cinnamon. And we're going to get it all incorporated. And it's going to be ready for us when we need it, after we roll out the dough. Every time I say roll out, think of that song, roll out. And I want to just sing it. We're going to roll out the dough. All right. You may not have thought that was funny, but I did. Okay. So now we're going to add 1½ tablespoons of cinnamon. You can see I use a lot of cinnamon. Actually, you know what? Let me clean this off real quick because I don't want to contaminate the cinnamon with any sugar that might be left in the scoop. All right, so like I said, 1½, is that what I said? 1½ tablespoons, yeah. So this is a 1 tablespooner. Okay, so we've got 1. I had 2, but we're gonna do a 1/2. 1½, there we go. And then we're gonna add that in, and then we're gonna add in our vanilla, which I'm using butter vanilla. And that's about 1 teaspoon of that. Let's get that all mixed and incorporated together. And I have to tell you, this smells delish. Absolutely delicious. So it's gonna come out to be kind of like a paste, so to say. A very thick mixture, which is what we want because we are going to use our spatula to spoon it over the dough after we roll it out. So you want it to be like a thick mixture. And I will show it to you. Actually, you know what? I'll come right over there. See? It doesn't fall out. It's very thick. And that's exactly how we want it. But I do have to mix this a little bit more because you want to make sure that all of the butter is incorporated. You don't want to see any like chunks of yellow in here. And I had just seen a couple. So let me just mix it a little bit more. And then I think we're going to be good to go. Yes, that is lovely. And it smells absolutely delish. All right, so let's see. We've got about 30 seconds left. So let me clean up a little bit and then I'll be back. All right, here we are. So I've taken the dough out of the oven. I'm going to remove my tea towel. Oh, it's nice and warm. I left my flour out over here because I am actually I just cleaned the counter while we were on break, while we had intermission. And I'm going to add some flour to the counter. Let's see, hang on 1 second here. Okay. I'm going to just sprinkle it right onto the counter. And that's where I'm going to roll out our cinnamon rolls. Okay. So let's remove the dough. Oh, it's nice and warm. It feels good on my hands. As much as I don't like to get my hands in the dough, at least it's warm. All right. I'm going to get some water going here in this bowl with some soap. This way, while I'm working, it can work. Because there's some dough stuck to the bottom. All right. Here we go. Oh, you guys can't really see what I'm doing, can you? Let's fix that. Magic. Okay. So now you can see. All right, here we go. I'm just going to pull it together a little bit more. And as you can see, it's not sticking to my hands. So you know that your consistency is good without it being too dry. All right, so we're going to roll it out. And I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees. Remember, it was down to 170, so it would proof. I've increased it to 350. It should be ready when we are. And I'm going to roll out the dough into approximately 14 by 18 triangle, about 1/8 of an inch thick. It takes some work to get the shape right. I'm going to be honest. And typically I would be kind of rolling it closer, but I want it, I want you guys to be able to see it. So I put it in the middle. This isn't in the way, is it? It might be. Hold on. Let me move that. Ta-da! There you go. All right. Let's get going here. Let it get this show on the road because I know my family are waiting for cinnamon rolls. And some of my friends at work are waiting for theirs on Monday because they've had these before. And when I said I was making cinnamon rolls, they got excited. Everybody got excited. All right. So like I said, you want to keep it about 1/4 of an inch and you want it to be rectangle in shape. So in order to do that, you know, it's going to take an extra couple of minutes. But that's okay because it'll make it easier when we're rolling and putting it all together. If that song wasn't copyright, play it in the background. All right. So you guys can see that. That looks nice. This side's a little thick. Let me just fix that. Oh, wow, that looks really good. The dough came out really nice. You know, sometimes the weather affects your dough, but it didn't today. All right, let's see. All right, good. It's not sticking on the bottom. I think this side's still a little thick. Let me fix that a little bit. Can you guys, I don't think, can you see that, the cookies? You might be wondering, Deanna, why are you wearing the same clothes as you wore in the last video? Well, that's because I'm doing 2 in 1 day, friends. All right, that's good. Feels good. Feels nice and even. This side a little thick. Let me just pat that out. All right. That looks good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our cinnamon paste, so to say, cinnamon sugar mixture, and I am going to slather it on. I'm going to use a special little gadget here for that. This way it's nice and smooth. And let's go ahead and get that on there. You want to keep it, you don't want to bring it all the way to the edges. I'd say keep it about 1 inch from the edges. And I like to just plop it down the center. That's my technical term. Plop it down. Alright, I'm going to get some water going in that. Give me just a moment here. It'll make it easier for me later. Our oven's ready! Okay, so let's make sure that I'm on track. Next, we preheated the oven and I am spreading the cinnamon sugar on the dough, not all the way to the edges. say an inch, but I'm gonna get a little closer. I'm gonna roll with a 1/2 inch on that. So I actually like to take it out in 3 scoops, so to say, like top, center, end. This way, it doesn't take as much for me to slather the mixture on. Does that make sense? I think I made sense. It's easier because you're not having to go down here to get it, to bring it up here, basically is what I'm saying. It's looking good. It takes a minute because it is a thick mixture, but like I said, it is worth it. Let's do 1/2 inch to the sides. Now, like I said before, I have made this and added mini chocolate chips. It was good, but I think the regular cinnamon rolls are my fave. That's what we're going with today. All right, it's looking good. You guys see that? Knowing me, when I edit the video, I'll zoom in for you. So you'll hear me saying all these crazy things and you'll be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so we want to just make sure, like I said, we get it even and as flat as possible. Maybe as flat as possible isn't what I'm trying to say. We want it as even as possible, meaning even on the outskirts and even all the way across. You don't want it real thick in spots and thin in spots. All right, that looks good. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll it, okay? So, hang on one second because I usually do it wrong. So my gut is telling me to roll it this way, long ways. Starting with the short side. Deanna. See, I was gonna do it wrong. It's a good thing I read what I typed. Okay, so we're gonna start with the short side. I really wanna do it the long way. I really want to do it long ways. We're doing it. We're doing it long ways. I always do it the opposite of what it says, but I've never been sorry. All right, so we're just gonna kind of stretch it out a little bit. Okay, so I'm really funny. Oh, let me grab a knife. I'm really funny about the edges of my cinnamon rolls. I don't want to have all this extra dough. That's why I like to bring the cinnamon as close as I can to the edge. But it just doesn't always work out like that. So you can use dental floss if you like to cut this. I'm just going to use a serrated knife because if you do it really gently, you can cut it with a serrated knife without squishing the cinnamon rolls. And because that's how I do it every time. Okay. So I've got a 9x13 here that I'm going to spray, okay, with organic Nature's Promise spray. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut the rolls. So what I like to do, you can do this however you see fit. I like to kind of eyeball it, cut it in the center. And then you can put them next to each other like this, but I'm doing them one at a time because I rather use a smaller knife. I have a very large serrated knife, like a bread knife, that I could definitely go across and hit both, but I like to have control and I don't want to squish it. You know, I want it to be round. I don't want it to be flat on one side and round on the other, all right? So we'll get approximately 12 rolls. Sometimes I get a little bit more. But I'm going to bring this over to you so you can see it. Right? Doesn't that look delish? So I am going to go through and cut all my rolls approximately, I think they're about 3/4 of an inch thick. And I'm going to put them in the baking dish, and they are going to touch one another, okay? So the smaller ones, as you get toward like the sides of the roll, they can kind of be pushed in on the sides so that you can get 4 across. And what's going to happen is they're all going to bake together beautifully. All right. Sometimes while you're cutting, even as careful as you are, it might get a little flatter on the bottom. So what I like to do if that happens is I just pick the roll up and I make it round again. It's not a big deal. I am going to take a moment here just to do a little bit of rearranging because I want to move some of the larger ones where there's a little bit more space. Perfect. So now I am going to put these in the oven to bake. Let's see how long. Okay, so the last time I made them, I baked them for 28 minutes. I would say check at between 20 and 25 minutes. You want to make sure that they're baked all the way through and that they have a very a light golden color on the top without being burned. You don't want them dark brown on top. Especially me, because I prefer my cinnamon rolls to be squishy. I don't like them crunchy. And again, that's just me. If you do, you can bake them a little bit longer. Just do you. All right, so I am going to get this put into the oven right now. And I am going to set my timer for 28 minutes. And then at that point, I will check and see if I need to put them in for another couple of minutes, you know, if they're not just 100% done. All right, so my cinnamon rolls are in the oven. Oh, there's a cute little bird out on my back porch. Sorry. Yep, I have about just under 19 minutes left for them to bake. So I hop back on so we can make our cream cheese icing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the icing together, and then when the cinnamon rolls are done and I take them out of the oven, I am going to slather the warm cinnamon rolls with the icing because you kind of want it to like drip down the sides a little and get gooey and yummy and delish. And then I will take pictures and share those with you as well. All right, so we have got 4 ounces of cream cheese. Now, if you are a cream cheese icing lover, let me say you could definitely double this recipe if you wanted extra icing. No problem, none. All right, if you don't like cream cheese, you can make this recipe without it and just use more powdered sugar. So you would add powdered sugar and milk and some vanilla. If you wanted to do it that way, like more of a drizzle, if you're not into cream cheese. I'm into cream cheese. So I've got 4 ounces here, which is a half a block of cream cheese. And it's room temperature. And so I've stirred it around and mixed it all up nicely. We're gonna add 2 cups of powdered sugar to the cream cheese. So I'm going to add a cup at a time, just because it makes it easier to stir. If you prefer your icing less sweet, you can add less powdered sugar if you want to, no problem. And like I said, we're using butter vanilla flavored extract today. You can use regular vanilla. You could also use almond. I've made this before with almond extract and it's delicious. You can use any type of extract that you like. I've done cream cheese extract. That's delicious. Not cream cheese, I'm sorry, cheesecake extract. That's quite delish. It's all delicious. All right, so that was 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now we're gonna add 1 more. And then we're gonna add some milk. Again, like I said earlier, I used evaporated milk. So what I did was I took the rest of the can of evaporated milk and I put it in this jar that has this cute little lid. And that is what I'm going to use in this recipe. You can use, you know, nut milk in the icing for sure. I have not tried it in the cinnamon rolls, so I don't want to give you the go-ahead because these take a lot of work, and I don't want to say, yeah, go ahead, use it in there, and then it not work, and it's a waste of your time and money. All right, so this is pretty thick right now, so I'm going to go ahead and add a touch of my extract. And actually this is an emulsion, so use a little bit less. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just add a little bit of milk, and we're going to just keep stirring it until we get the consistency that we want, and we'll just add milk as we go. So this is still a little bit on the thick side for me, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the milk. I'd say I'm probably adding about a teaspoon at a time. And you could definitely use a teaspoon if you're more comfortable doing that. All right, so we're getting there. And in my opinion, it's getting there, but it's still a little bit thick. See how it's not running from the fork? And you could definitely use a mixer for this as well. I just hate to dirty the mixer for just this one thing. You could, although, like I said, we could have also used the mixture for the cinnamon slather, but I just would rather do it by hand. All right, we are getting there. Look at that. Almost. Almost. I'm going to add just a touch. I just spilled it. I'm going to add just a touch more milk. And let's see if that gives us the consistency that we want. If you really like cinnamon, you could also add a little bit of cinnamon to this. If you wanted to do like a pumpkin spice, you could add a pumpkin spice mixture to it. Okay, this looks really good. It's dripping slowly, but it is dripping. And I'm considering adding just a touch more milk. But I don't think I am. I'm gonna leave it. Here, let me come up closer so you can see. All right, so here's what we've got. See, it's moving slowly, but it's moving. And the reason I don't want to go any thinner with this is because once we put this on the warm cinnamon roll, it's going to melt and it's going to kind of slather down the sides and such. So I don't want it to be too liquidy to where it doesn't sit on top of the cinnamon rolls. So let's see what I've got. I've got about 13 minutes left of my cinnamon rolls before I check them. So I am going to loosely cover this and just set it aside for those 13 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and clean up, and then when the cinnamon rolls are done, I'm going to add this over the top. Okay, friends, my cinnamon rolls are fully baked. I did have to put them back in for about 6 more minutes. So 28 plus 6, there you have it. But they are done, and I have spread the icing on top of the rolls. I actually had a phone call, and so I didn't want to not spread the icing on, and then the rolls get too cool, and then it wouldn't spread properly. So there you have it. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I am actually going to take out one of the cinnamon rolls so you can see what it looks like. Here we go. Just a regular plate here. And let's see. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter which one. Now, I do like the ones from the inside. I'm going to go for it. Let's see if I can figure it out. Because I have all the icing. There it is. Ooh, that was good. Ooh, that looks yummy. All right. I'm going to bring it over and show it to you. Look at that. Woohoo, that looks delicious. Oh my God. These are so good.
Let me show you the inside.
Doesn't that look good? It is so moist. Here, look. Look at that. See all that cinnamon running through?
Yum.
Well, friends, I hope you give them a try, because they are worth the time. So thank you for being here. I ask if you enjoyed this video, if you would like and subscribe to my channel. It's a free way to show your support for a baker like me. And I hope you enjoy the cinnamon rolls. I'm always open for positive comments, so please leave me a positive comment below. And thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again soon.